All right, everyone, welcome back to Course 6 in our massive open online course for mission transition. We are going to focus now on federal resume basics, and there's a separate course immediately following this on civilian resume basics. So if you don't plan on applying to USA Jobs for federal opportunities, feel free to skip to the next course. And if you are applying to federal opportunities, obviously digest this course, but I encourage you to take the next one as well, because many of the tips contained in the next one will apply equally here. So let's get into it. Our objectives today are understanding the basics for building a resume for federal government opportunities, and where it applies, build a resume for federal opportunities. Our required materials are my book, specifically Chapter 4. As always, be prepared to take notes and have access to a computer so you can access my website and others that I'll show you in the course of this content, specifically USA Jobs. You'll need web and software tools, not only my website, but again, USA Jobs. You can find me on various social media platforms, and as always, try to take this with a peer. It always helps to bounce notes off of someone else that's going through it. Here's where we're at in the process by which you'll attain full employment in the career field of your choosing. We're preparing a resume, in this case for federal opportunities. There are various resume types depending on whether you're applying to civilian opportunities or government opportunities. And what I have shaded here as being in scope are those that I consider practical resume types. In this case, we're looking at applying to government opportunities. Given your experience in the military, I would expect that the opportunities for which you're applying are either mid or senior levels. And you'll see as we get into this, I have drafted sample resumes for both of those kinds. So let's start with talking about the differences between civilian and government resumes. Lots of differences here. The good news from a government resume standpoint, if you're applying for federal opportunities, there's less translation required vis-a-vis their civilian counterparts. So getting into some of the details here, whereas government resumes require very specific names of bases, posts, locations, civilian resumes don't require that. Government resumes require detailed accomplishments, and the length of these goes on, as you'll see here, because of that. Whereas on the civilian side, accomplishments can be generalized. Government resumes require a very detailed description of the technical work involved. I want to make sure that that applies directly to the opportunity. On the civilian side, not so much. General descriptions will do. On the government side, military terminology can be used, and much more so than on the civilian side, where we translate that terminology. Security clearances are listed in both cases and equally applicable, assuming that it's active. On the government side, training is described in fair amount of detail, including location, number of hours, course title, certifications, etc. Whereas on the civilian side, training and certification may or may not be included. It depends on where you're applying and the nature of the organization to which you're applying. Last, as I hinted, the length of these are very different. On the government side, these resumes can stretch anywhere from 3 to 5 pages, depending on whether it's a mid-level or senior level opportunity. And on the civilian side, typically 2 pages. At the mid-range, maybe even 1 page. But even at a senior level, typically no more than 2 pages. So as we sit down to compose our resume on the federal side, there is lots of documentation we need to collect before we sit down to actually input it into USA Jobs. And so we'll run through the list here. I realize you don't have a hard copy of this per se, so feel free to pause the course, take a snapshot, do what you will to make sure you have this list, and it carries over onto the next page. So you're going to need your separation papers. You're going to need your DD-214, your last or current LES. Performance appraisals, which take various flavors depending on what service in which you served. Your verification of military experience in training. That's a DD-2586, and your military training record, which also takes various permutations depending on the service in which you served. As the Space Force comes online, we'll add those details as well. So additional documents you'll need are previous resumes or employment forms, award citations, letters of recommendation or appreciation, articles or letters concerning your military activities, lists of publications that you may have authored, where you've done speaking engagements, any official orders that document your assignments, professional organization memberships or conference attendee materials. And to the extent you have certifications with regard to these organizations, have those certifications as well. College transcripts, regardless of the college type you had. Military transcripts, which again take various permutations depending on the service within which you served. Course descriptions for courses taken, so you can tease out the details to buffet your skill sets. And then details on any specialized training that you've had, especially joint training or other things that may not be listed elsewhere. After compiling all of these things, now you want to turn to USA Jobs. USA Jobs is the single one-stop shop for where and how you would build out your resume. And so first thing you need to do is sign up for an account, establish a profile, and sign into your USA Jobs account. Let me just briefly shift to that to show you what that looks like. When you first sign in, it's going to prompt you to establish your profile. And here are the details included in that profile, some basics around who you are, contact information. You also need to download an app on your smartphone to have a duplicative password that they'll send you. It's a 6-digit password you need to plug in when you come back to USA Jobs. You'll need to define your citizenship, what your hiring path is, which almost always be veterans, but there are other paths that may be applicable. You can check those as well. Experience, whether that's federal, military, or other work experience, you can add all that here. By the way, as you edit here, it can also be pulled in immediately to your resume, which I'll show you shortly. You populate your education, demographics. I should add many of these fields are optional. Education, demographics, languages you know, organizations you belong to, and references. But you know, more detail you can put in here, I would argue, the better. You can always choose when you go to build your resume whether or not to pull in that detailed content. Once you've established your profile, you can move over here to your documents, and we'll get to this in the course momentarily, but I just want to show you where within USA Jobs you'll find this. You can build up to 5 different resumes, and you can use the resume builder in USA Jobs to do that, which this example would relate, or you can upload your own. And I would, and if you had to choose one, I would argue to use the resume builder version, because not all federal agencies will accept your uploaded resume. And then we'll circle back to the resume, but I also wanted to show you preferences here. You can establish your preferences up front regarding travel, relocation, desired work locations, and appointment type and work schedule. Again, all of this can be pulled into your application as you're building out the resume and applying for specific opportunities. All right, let me come back here to our content, if you will. So let's talk about the resume builder. You're going to sign into your account. You're going to follow these instructions, and they're accessible from the page I was just on, but just to briefly show you, there are references as you go throughout USA Jobs and building this, helpful links to walk you through how to build a resume, tips for formatting, and we'll talk through some of those as well, and submitting resumes to agencies. There's always related articles here on the right to how to do many things as you're going about building your resume. So please take advantage of that. Coming back here are some important details. For security reasons, you'll see, and if I'd have waited long enough on the USA Jobs site, it would have timed out and caused me to sign back in. So save your work periodically so that you don't lose any of your work. I know that's always frustrating when that happens. To edit your Resume Builder resume, click on your username at the top of the page, select Documents, as I just showed you, and you can click Edit on the resume that's there, and it'll take you to the first page, and you can edit from there. Tips for formatting resumes in the Resume Builder. You can copy and paste from Word documents into the Resume Builder. However, some of the formatting in your Word document may not work in your Resume Builder in USA Jobs. So to correct formatting errors inside your Resume Builder resume, save your original Word file in a text format, .txt. Just a little tip there. Online format for your federal government resume, and there's a lot of detail here, and there's some resources here you see shown at the bottom of the page, and we'll highlight again at the end. There are lots of more nuances and rules, if you will, regarding federal government resumes that apply to civilian resumes. So we're going to get into a list of them here. So first, use all caps to highlight keywords. We'll talk more about keywords in a moment, but these are words noted in either the duties, key requirements, or qualifications sections of the job announcement that you need to pay special attention to and regurgitate when we're submitting our application. No formatting, no indentations or centering of text. Don't bold, italicize, and bullets or underlines. The resume should be flush left and ragged right, meaning that we don't justify the text, which is a formatting option in Word. Use small paragraphs, 4 to 8 lines maximum. Again, use all caps to highlight headers, and add accomplishments at the end of each job block and feature only the last 10 years of your work experience. Here is the federal government resume content and what you should include in each section. The contact information, you can see the second column here, what you should include in your work experience. For each role, each job you've had, include the start and end dates, month and year, number of hours you work per week, level amount of experience, examples of relevant experiences and accomplishments that prove you can perform the task. Also, don't forget to include any volunteer work or roles, say, outside of your day job that may demonstrate your ability to do the job. For education, and for colleges in which you've earned a degree, state the college name, city, state, major, month and year that the degree was earned. Professional publications, to the extent that you've authored anything. Name these items that you've published that might be relevant. Don't simply apply a laundry list. Again, all of these things should be applicable. Where it is applicable, list the title and date of publication. Other content as part of your federal government resume. References. You absolutely want to include references here, which on the civilian side is somewhat optional. For each reference, state their name, job title, employer, phone number, and email address. For training that's related to the job that you're applying for each course, name the course, what organization trained you, and the year it was completed. For your language skill, and if you're going to claim fluency, you saw in my example, Spanish, there's 3 different levels of fluency you'll have to note for whether it's spoken, your ability to read and write that language. Organizations and affiliations. To the extent that you belong to an organization, again, that is applicable to the job for which you're applying, state that organization and your role or certification or rank within that organization. And then additional information to the extent that you have any job-related honors, awards, leadership activities, licenses, skills, certifications, software proficiency, etc. Anything, again, that might apply to the role for which you're applying or requested by the job announcement, make sure you include that there. All right, let's talk about how to differentiate your resume from those of your peers in applying for federal government opportunities. Quantify your accomplishments. And what I mean by quantify is specify numerals, quantities. Don't just say how good you were about something, quantify that. Did you save a certain dollar amount? Did you improve something you did by a certain percentage. What are those dollar amounts? What are those percentages? Hard facts will much better improve your chances for standing out. Customize or tailor your resume for specific opportunities. This equally applies on the civilian side. We don't carpet bomb opportunities and agencies with the same resume. We tailor it for the specific opportunity and the specific agency for which we're applying. Address every single required qualification on that job announcement. Whatever they specify, you're going to reply as part of your application that you can address those qualifications and have the experience and skills required. Use keywords. Again, you will find these in the duties, key requirements, and qualifications section of the job announcement. You want to use those exact words or phrases in responding to the application and in your resume. Organize your resume so it's easy to understand. Use reverse chronological order. As we said, start with your most recent experience and work your way back 10 years. All right. Provide greater detail for experience that's relevant. All right. And less so for that is less relevant. Show all experiences and accomplishments under the job in which you earned it. Okay. Don't try to avoid having gaps in your experience. Use either bullet or paragraph format to describe your experiences and accomplishments. Make sure your accomplishments emphasize what you did. And this is important. We come from the military. We're used to talking in terms of team and unit and how we collectively did it. Now you need to pivot to showing how you personally, first person, how I enabled the accomplishment. Okay. Use plain language. Again, while there's less translation required than our civilian peers, you want to avoid using acronyms and military terms that aren't easily understood by those that might work in these governmental agencies to which you're applying. Use active voice. This is one that happens a lot of time in the military where there tends to be a lot of passive voice use. All right. Structure your accomplishments in a format that stipulates this format. Okay. What was the situation? What was the challenge that the situation presented? What action did you personally take to address the challenge? And what were the quantifiable results? Again, data of those actions. Okay. Some more thoughts on how to stand out. Again, be concise. Make your resume searchable. All right. And if we flip back to the resume builder in USA Jobs, just to show this to you real quickly, only one of let me flip back to our documents here. See, here are our resumes. Only one of the resumes is searchable at any point in time. Okay, but make sure whichever one that you're choosing is searchable. Okay, and review your resume before you apply. Not just you, but have someone else in the know, preferably someone that has experience at the agency to which you're applying. Okay. Also note your resume will only remain searchable for 18 months unless you renew it. Okay. All right. There are also items not to include. All right. Classified or government sensitive information. Don't include that. They don't want your social security number. They don't want photos of yourself, nor do they want personal information such as age, gender, religious affiliation, and that sort. They also don't want encrypted or digitally signed documents. Okay. All right, so here's how you upload your resume. Again, I said the preference would be that you use the resume builder because not all agencies accept an uploaded resume. Nonetheless, if one does, here's how you do it. Sign into USA Jobs account, click Documents, upload, build your resume, upload the resume, and then choose the document on your computer and select the resume you want to upload and select Open. All right, make sure you name it, and you have the option to edit it once you've uploaded it. Let me demonstrate. Again, we'll go back to USA Jobs. You see I've uploaded one already. We can upload another one here. We can either build or upload. I'm going to upload one example here. Let me search for resume. And I've uploaded a mid resume. Let me upload a senior resume. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to keep that name, or I could change it. And then I'll say complete upload. And this will be the third resume that I've uploaded, two of which I've uploaded. The third was a Resume Builder version. You note the difference in the Word file versus the Resume Builder icon there. Okay, that's how we do that. All right, back to our content here. Veterans preference and cover letters. When you actually go to apply for a vacancy at a particular government agency, rule number one always is follow the instructions of the vacancy announcement. Some agencies allow you to submit for veterans preference. Some do not. Some allow for cover letters. Some do not. Don't be the one that insists on taking no for an answer. And even though the instructions say not to submit cover letters or not to submit veteran preference, goes ahead and does that. That will almost certainly disqualify you from consideration. So follow the instructions, please. If you're allowed to submit for veterans preference, please submit any one of these documents, okay? And or a cover letter. All right. Here's some guidelines though. All documents that you submit have to be less than 3 megabytes. So consider as you're scanning perhaps one of these documents that you don't save it under incredibly high resolution to exceed that 3 megabyte limit. And all documents must be in one of the formats noted here. Okay. Cover letters. Some guidance on cover letters. I'll share an example here momentarily, but cover letters contain 3 paragraphs. An opening, a middle, and a closing. The opening is energetic. It introduces your background and how your strengths not only fit the role, but will further the organization's stated mission. All right. The middle, and ideally a word table that summarizes how your qualifications directly satisfy or exceed the requirements for the role. And then closing, a sentence or two that'll express your thanks for being considered and your anticipation for being contacted regarding next steps. So here are some samples. And as a reminder, you can find all of these on my website, downloadable templates available for you to tweak and tailor to your heart's content and possibly upload in USA Jobs for applications for opportunities at federal government agencies. This is a mid-level opportunity sample. It's a 4-pager. The next is a senior level opportunity, see a 5-pager here. And again, you'll see the detail, perhaps it's more difficult to see as we're looking at the slide, but when you download the template on my website, you'll see it's formatted exactly as we indicated above. If you're looking to submit a cover letter and the agency allows for it, here again is a template that you can download from my website. And again, you note the 3, the beginning, the middle, and the end, where there's that table in the middle that defines precisely what the agency's needs are and how your credentials match or exceed those criteria. All right, and then finally, thank you note, absolutely applicable in the federal space as well as the civilian space. And again, you'll find templates for this. You can download from my website and utilize for your applications for government opportunities at federal agencies. So here's your homework, friends, for this course. Create your USA Jobs profile. I walked you through that. It doesn't take long. And collect the information needed to compose your resume. This may take a bit of time, but it's worth your every effort to pull together thorough information you're going to need to successfully complete a detailed resume. Again, there's lots more detail needed in a federal government resume than that of their civilian counterparts. All right, as always, please refer to my book. Again, there's case studies throughout about individuals that have gone through this process and applied for federal roles. All right, detailed discussion of this topic about what to do, what not to do, things to pay attention for as you go through the process of generating your resume and applying online. All right, additional guidance for those that have been more tenured in the military looking to apply, and additional resources that we'll talk about here momentarily as well. Some words to the wise. Please do get an outside perspective. Yes, it's a government opportunity. Yes, the military, you served in the government, but there is translation required, simply not as much as civilian peers. And ideally, you get that perspective from someone within the federal government, or even better, in the agency to which you're applying. All right, a lot of sources for this. You got a lot of peers potentially that have left and now work in the government, or perhaps in the organizations to which you're applying. Alumni organizations, college placement offices, nonprofit veteran collaboratives. One of our follow-on courses here, we're going to talk about network and how we identify these folks. There's lots of options here. All right. Do tailor your resume to the specific needs of the hiring agency. Don't carpet bomb the agencies and their opportunities with the identical resume. That applies equally on the civilian side. Some things not to do. Again, maybe the first time you're going through this process, don't get frustrated with yourself. Okay, I know it isn't easy, but not only can it be done, it must be done. Okay, if you need a break, take a break. Don't be satisfied with the first version of your resume. Be open to feedback, all right? And others that have been through this, others again that either work in the federal government or perhaps at an agency, they will help you get this right. Chances are several revisions will be required. Don't let that get you down. Also, don't get confused, all right? Every person whose help you might seek might have a slightly different opinion about the way this thing should work. You're going to have to kind of thread the needle there and find a happy medium that actually works for you. They all mean well. All these people are trying to help. It's ultimately going to be up to you, however, to decide what portions of their opinion, their advice are going to be most applicable for what you're trying to get done. As always, additional resources here. And for federal government resumes, there's some really good references here I urge you to take advantage of that go into a lot more detail than I have here in this course, or for that matter, in my book itself. As always, you can find me via my website. And let's end, as we always do, with a bonus video. In this instance, I would like to impart to you why I chose the military in the first place. Here we go.
As I mentioned, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Very blue-collar, middle-class background, and knew that there weren't a ton of resources, and yet I had the ability, I had the ambition to attain a level of education that would set me up for success later in life. I saw the service academies as enabling those things, both the level of education, which I would equate to being an Ivy League caliber education, as well as I saw it at the time, a guaranteed job upon graduation. Back in the day, that wasn't necessarily a guaranteed thing coming up through the ranks. I applied to most service academies. I attained an appointment to both Annapolis and West Point. And you might ask what swung it for me at the time. Going back, I was a young kid, relatively immature. For me, the thing that swung it is that Army had a better football team and I was a football recruit. So I wanted to go play Division 1A football, and so that's, for me at the time, what swung the deal. That said, I wouldn't change my decision one iota. It was the right choice for me.
All right, friends, thanks for listening as always. Next up, we're going to talk about civilian resume basics. Again, even though you may consider applying only to federal government opportunities, I would urge you to listen to the civilian resume basics as well. Many of those tips and tactics will apply to you as well. Thank you much. Talk soon.